Hey everybody, it's Kaladesh and welcome back to some more Magic Arena. Today we have a free Kaladesh Remastered Premier Draft, so make sure to hop on Arena if you are interested in a free draft. But other than that, it's been a while since I've drafted the format, so I am excited to hop back in and see what we open up here. And here we open up a very, very powerful colorless card, and it's not the Mythic Rare, believe it or not. Paradox Engine is a really cool card for Constructed, Commander, and Historic Brawl, but Untethered Express is an absolutely fantastic colorless card. This can go into any deck, it's incredibly easy to crew, and it quickly becomes the most impressive creature on board and a very threatening presence. The first time it attacks, it's attacking as a 5/5 trample, and it just keeps getting bigger and bigger from there. So Untethered Express, kind of one of those quote-unquote mythic rare uncommons that we're going to take over the mythic rare here, and we're also going to take it over some pretty good other cards. I do think Aerial Responder is a pretty great 3-drop in white. However, that is the one issue with it right there. It is in white. Not that white is a particularly bad color or anything. It's just the fact that Untethered Express is completely colorless, so it doesn't matter at all what everyone else is drafting. We're throwing an Untethered Express in our deck no matter what, and we're going to have a great time every time we draw it. So Untethered Express is going to be the pick one, pack one there. And here we do have an interesting rare that I might try out, the Quicksmith Rebel. I don't actually have any experience playing with this card, but I've played against it a few times. It's a 4-mana 3/2. When it enters the battlefield, you get to have an artifact you control gain the ability to tap to deal 2 damage to any target for as long as you control the Quicksmith Rebel. So that alone can start chipping away at some of your opponent's creatures, anything with 2 or less toughness. I guess not technically alone, you do have to have another artifact, but if you have a good amount of just random cheap vehicles like the Sky Skiff here, you'll have a lot of cards to target with your Quicksmith Rebel. And yeah, turning anything into a repeatable source of damage to either chip away at your opponent's creatures or put your opponent on a clock whether or not you can attack in, seems pretty good to me. Yeah, worst case scenario, you're hitting your opponent for 2 damage every turn. Best case scenario, you chip away some creatures, and then combat gets pretty messy for your opponent. All of a sudden, when you attack in with a 3/3 against their 5/5, if they block that 3/3 with their 5/5, you can also just shoot it for that final 2 damage, so you can have your creatures trade up as well. Quicksmith Rebel seems like a pretty solid card here. And now I'm kind of interested in a Scrap Trawler, because I'm likely to be trying to draft a lot of artifacts pretty aggressively. I'm always going to want to have an artifact on board for our Quicksmith Rebel to target when we cast it. And Scrap Trawler seems like a pretty decent one at that. 3 mana for a 3/2, not the greatest rate for the mana cost, but whenever it or another artifact is put into the graveyard from the battlefield, you get to return a cheaper artifact from your graveyard to your hand. So it gives you some good value. If we play this and then it dies immediately, at least if we've played something like a Puzzle Knot or a Sky Skiff that might be in our graveyard at that point, we can get something back with it. And obviously the really ideal play would be if we have some kind of 5-mana artifact that manages to die, then we could pick up our Untethered Express or something like that. But I'll try out this rare here, this Scrap Trawler. Seems like a fun time if nothing else. And a Renegade Map's going to be one of those cards that actually works really well with Scrap Trawler because it's an artifact that's really cheap. We can just sacrifice it immediately. It'll be in our graveyard, so now no matter what, when our Scrap Trawler dies, we'll get some value out of it. Renegade Map is also just mana fixing in any deck. You can run this basically instead of a basic land, so it doesn't super cost a card to cast this because it just immediately replaces itself with a land. Renegade Map seems like a solid choice here. That being said, we could go with one of the more powerful, more splashy cards here. I don't think there's anything off color that is powerful enough for me to want to jump out of color. Subtle Strike's a pretty decent combat trick, and Hunt the Weak's a decent removal spell, but neither of those are incredibly exciting. If we're taking a red card here, we can take the Aggressive Creature or the Siege modification if we want to go really hard on vehicles here, but we only have the one so far. I'm kind of interested in just taking a Renegade Map here. I think it just has good synergies with what we have already. It's a great synergy with Scrap Trawler and a decent synergy with Quicksmith Rebel, and it'll be mana fixing in any color scheme that we end up in. So definitely a really high pick of a Renegade Map here, but I think it's just checking a lot of the boxes that I'm interested in right now. So here I kind of like Chandra's Pyrohelix. 2 mana for 2 damage at instant speed will often kill at least one thing and potentially kill 2. There are servo tokens in the format, as you can see from the Countless Gears Renegade. So sometimes you'll be able to chip away 2 servos of your opponents, or a 3/1 and a 1/1, and that will always be incredible. Otherwise, just shooting a 2 toughness creature seems fine. There's also a Sky Skiff here. I do think this is a pretty good vehicle, but we are seeing them go decently late. We already have 3 artifacts to combo with the Quicksmith Rebel, so we're doing pretty well so far on the amount of artifacts in deck. Ooh, some powerful cards in this pack, but they're pretty off color here. I'm really trying to play red with our red rare here, and we get another great red card. It's kind of the bigger Chandra's Pyrohelix, 4 mana for a sorcery that deals 2 damage to 2 targets, so it's easier to get the 2 for 1 off of this, but it's a more expensive card, so 2 damage to 2 things, more likely to kill 2 things. You can kill 2 3/2s like a Spire Patrol and a Herald of the Fair over there on the right, but yeah, these multicolored cards are quite powerful. However, we'd have to be 3 colors to play either of them. There's Spire Patrol here, a great flyer that slows down an opponent's attacking card, and Restoration Gearsmith, just a great value card, kind of a Gravedigger for artifacts. 4 mana for a 3/3, you get an artifact or creature from your graveyard back to your hand when you cast it. Let's see what we have here. Not a huge fan of Ravenous Intruder. I just don't think there are a ton of extremely expendable artifacts in the format. The biggest thing you can do with this is get a bunch of servos, which is a little harder to do than like getting a lot of treasures has been in Adventures in the Forgotten Realms. So this tends to be worse than like the Rust Insect in Adventures in the Forgotten Realms. Could take a decent vehicle here, the Mobile Garrison, a slow vehicle, the Iron Tread Crusher, or just like a 3 mana 2/3. Not necessarily playing black, but if we do, then it'll get lifelink. In worst case scenario, just a 3 mana 2/3 that happens to be an artifact for artifact synergy seems okay. Yeah, nothing insane going this late here. No massively huge sign to hop into any particular color. Restoration Specialist is interesting, being able to pick up an artifact and enchantment from your grave to hand when you sacrifice it, so we can use this to recur one of our more powerful artifacts like a Scrap Trawler or Untethered Express. We can respond with that ability after we chump block. A little interested in trying out the Restoration Specialist here. I think the next best card might be like Night Market Aeronaut. It's not super hard to trigger Revolt, so that's often just a 4 mana 3/3 flyer, which is pretty good. All right, I'm kind of liking how white is looking, although black is also looking decent. We saw Night Market Aeronaut last pack, and now we see Defiant Salvager. This actually is a good reason to start sacrificing servos and stuff. Unfortunately, you can only do it as a sorcery, but getting that permanent buff is really nice. So here, I think it's between Renegade Map, Defiant Salvager, and Glint Sleeve Artisan, and I think, with one Renegade Map already, a good amount of artifacts, I'm going to take the Glint Sleeve Artisan. This card's really nice because it's a 3 mana 3/3 or a 3 mana 2/2 that spits out a 1/1 servo, so it's another card to fill out our board with some artifacts for our Quicksmith Rebel. And just getting little 1/1 tokens is also really helpful to crew vehicles that require 1 to crew, like Untethered Express and Sky Skiff here. And I'm probably taking Sky Skiff, although I might be taking vehicles a little highly here. I do think Sweatworks Brawler is also a great creature, 4 mana for a 3/3 menace there. And yeah, I think I'm going to commit into red-white here. Red-white is also the color scheme, or the color pair with the most synergy with vehicles. You have these cards like Siege Modification here that can make one of your vehicles just permanently an attacking creature. So we should be able to get some cards like this pretty late and maybe try that out if we get enough vehicles. Go for the uber synergies here. I don't know what happened there. All right, there we go, it's back. And now we have Conviction as the last pick. Conviction isn't completely unplayable. It's a relatively big buff for the mana cost. It's mostly in toughness, so it's not that exciting. But the interesting thing about this card is another primary mechanic of the set is Revolt. And Revolt is an ability that means if you play the card in a turn where one of your permanents left the battlefield, it'll be more powerful. So with Conviction, you can trigger that really easily. You just spend 1 white mana, put this back in your hand, and then any card you cast with Revolt is going to be a little bit better. So Conviction, definitely not the worst card to get last pick there. Here I am going to take a Karizev's Expertise. It's not going to be absolutely fantastic in this deck. You are going to want some ways to sacrifice stuff to make this absolutely brutal as always, but it's a fun rare to play around with. It's an active treason effect, steal your opponent's best creature or vehicle for a turn, and you get to cast something for free when you play it, so if you're curving out pretty aggressively, then you can really slam the board with this. So I'm going to take Karizev's Expertise, mainly because there's not much else in red or white here. I would take any good uncommon like a Renegade Wheelsmith or Scrapper Champion over the Expertise, but there were just some mediocre commons in our colors there. So here we do have a really difficult choice, though. Both of these cards are going to be absolutely excellent in our deck. Scrapper Champion is just an excellent card, period. 4 mana for a 2/2 double strike. It enters the battlefield with 2 energy, and then when it attacks, if you spend 2 energy, you put a +1/+1 counter on it. So all by itself, with no other support, a 4 mana 2/2 double strike that's immediately a 3/3 double strike when it attacks is absolutely huge. 3/3 double strike for 4 is a really good rate, but Renegade Wheelsmith is just fantastic with vehicles. 3 mana for a 3/2, whenever it becomes tapped, target creature can't block this turn. The really good part of that is that you don't even have to attack with it. You could just tap it to crew a vehicle. So we tap this to crew our Untethered Express and make it so they can't make a good double block on it. I am going to take the Scrapper Champion over the Wheelsmith because I think both of these are fantastically powerful cards, pretty comparable in power level, but the Scrapper Champion is a mono-colored card, so it's less likely to wheel. I don't think that the Wheelsmith will wheel either, but it's more of a possibility than Scrapper Champion wheeling. We also have more red than white here, so it is possible that we could ditch white for another color if something ends up super open. That being said, nothing particularly incredible in this pack, just some mediocre cards, so we'll take something mediocre in our colors, I think. Probably the Eddy Trailhawk here. 2 mana for a 1/2 flyer, gives you 2 energy when you play it, and when you attack with it, if you spend 1 energy, you can have one of your other creatures be flying for the turn. Seems okay. Herald of the Fair definitely seems pretty filler as well. Nothing super exciting in that pack. Ooh, I do happen to like this uncommon quite a bit here, the Aether Torch Renegade. It enters the battlefield with 4 energy, and for 2 of that energy, you can tap it to deal 1 damage to target creature. So this can chip away again at little servo tokens, can clear out 2 of them. If your opponent happens to be playing 2/1s and 3/1s, you have a really great time with this. And as I've said before, you can stack your damage together, have your 3/3 trade up into their 4/4 if you have this lying in wait to do that final point of damage. So I do like the Aether Torch Renegade here. It's also a great combo, of course, with Scrapper Champion. If we're just on the aggressive and we get Scrapper Champion to start swinging, we could play this just to get the 4 energy and use that 4 energy just to make Scrapper Champion even bigger. We have another Furious Reprisal here. I think I will take that. Whirler Maker's an interesting card. It's quite slow, but it can take over the game. Don't think that I'm looking for it here over a Furious Reprisal, because this is just a great removal spell. Aether Chaser's a fantastic aggressive card. A 2/1 First Striker is kind of hard to block early game, and this spits out a servo the first time it attacks. Gives you 2 energy when you play it, spend the 2 when you attack to get a servo. So Aether Chaser would also be good here, but I think Furious Reprisal is just a nice, beefy removal spell there. Chandra's Revolution, another solid beefy removal spell, but I do like Self-Assemblers. Self-Assemblers are just really fun to draft. 5 mana for a 4/4 when you play it, grab all of your other ones from your deck and throw them into your hand. So if this is your only 5-drop in your deck, then you're having a great time if you have a few copies of it. Because then every time you draw one, you draw all of them, so you know when you hit 5 mana, you're just going to consistently be playing a 4/4 every turn for quite a few turns. So I like Self-Assembler a ton. I'm actually going to take Self-Assembler over Chandra's Revolution here. That's almost definitely wrong, but I'm just absolutely in love with Self-Assembler. And here I'm going to take another copy. Sometimes you do just get paid off. I think Self-Assembler, again, very powerful card if you can get 3 or 4 copies of it, because it just assures that you always have consistent late game plays. I'm just a very, very big fan of that. Probably more than most players. Probably take those Self-Assemblers pretty highly. This pack's not good, really. It doesn't really matter. I guess I'll take a Conviction here. And now, how are we doing on our curve in terms of creatures? We only have Audacious Infiltrator, Eddy Trailhawk, Restoration Specialist on 3. I do want some more cheap creatures, especially with just at least 1 power to crew Sky Skiff and Untethered Express easily. Kind of like the Fire Weaver here. Just a 2 mana 1/3. We're dealing a little bit of damage to our opponents over and over. It blocks pretty well, and it can crew our vehicles well, because it just needs 1 power. So I like the Reckless Fire Weaver there. And then I'll take the Glint Sleeve Artisan as the 3-drop here. Definitely just like strictly better than than that red one that we saw. I guess we could take Defiant Salvager to combo with our Karizev's expertise, try to push into red-black to combo with it. Because black has seemed recently open, so that's definitely an option that we could take there. And we didn't see the red-white uncommon wheel, so the red-white colors aren't necessarily open. I don't think I'm playing any of this. I don't know how I keep getting a card to disappear. It's pretty impressive. We do have a lot going on at 3 mana. Lots of creatures and stuff, so I'll just take another... Oh wait, neither of these are 2 drops. They're both 3 drops. Well, I guess I'd prefer the one that I can damage my opponent just by crewing vehicles. Oh wow, black is very open. We see a Die Young here. At worst, this is a 2-mana sorcery for -2/-2. I suppose we should be in red-black. We could have had some Defiant Salvagers that way to combo with Karizev's expertise, and we're also just seeing great black cards late. Is it too late to just jump ship here and take a Daring Demolition in this pack? I mean, most of our white cards are very filler. Audacious Infiltrator, Double Conviction, Herald of the Fair. Our only good white cards really are Restoration Specialist and arguably the Artisans. I could see a good argument for just taking Daring Demolition here. I'm not a fan of this rare, Fateful Showdown. Discard a bunch of cards and draw them any cards and then deal damage based on your hand size. It's just for very specific situations. If I'm not taking Daring Demolition, like the red cards in this pack aren't good, so if I don't take Daring Demolition, I have to commit fully to white here and just take Dawnfeather Eagle, because it's a nice Anthem effect when you play it in the late game. But I'm going to take the Daring Demolition here. Maybe we do get to do the last second move into black. It's not incredibly likely, but it's possible. We do see a really good white card here, though. Visionary Augmenter, 4 mana for a 4/3 or 4 mana for a 2/1 that comes with 2 1/1s. These Fabricate cards being just powerful, flexible options. I could take a slightly worse red card like an Enraged Giant for the late game instead of the Augmenter if I want to still be open to red-white or red-black. One of the nice things about the format is because there's so many artifacts, we have a good amount of cards that are going into this deck no matter what colors we end up in. We could do a splash with Renegade Map, especially if we get more. I will take an Augmenter here. We do see another Defiant Salvager. We see a Gear Shift Ace, though. 2 mana for a 2/1 First Striker that gives our vehicles First Strike when we crew them. This is excellent with Untethered Express. I cannot emphasize enough how difficult it is to block a 5/5 First Strike Trampler. So I'm kind of just going to take Gear Shift Ace here. We're getting paid off now. Now we're just seeing more powerful white cards than black cards in these packs. So I guess we do just stick to red-white in the end of things. Defiant Salvager again, it would be good with the Karizev's expertise, but wow, these white cards here have been phenomenal. The Visionary Augmenter and the Gear Shift Ace both being excellent for this deck. And now I think I just take another Aether Torch Renegade. Don't mind if I do. Sure, it's a pretty small creature, but even the 1-power creatures can be used to crew our bigger stuff later on. So I already have 2 Furious Reprisals when it comes to just shipping out a bunch of small creatures, so I'm a little bit more interested in Welding Sparks here. Instant speed removal that does at least 3 damage and will often do 4 damage in our deck, so this can kill bigger things than Furious Reprisal can, and it's instant speed. It kind of fills a slot that's a little bit lacking in our deck, being instant speed and bigger removal. We're doing well on Furious Reprisals. We have 2 of them already, so those are pretty full up. We could take Aether Chaser as a great 2-drop there, but we're pretty full on 2-drops, so we would just be leveling up one of our 2-drops into a better card, which isn't incredibly exciting. I think that the instant speed removal there is pretty great. All right, Workshop Assistant could be pretty decent in this deck. You know, if we top deck this in the late game, it just comes out, chump blocks, and picks up something strong like an Untethered Express or a 4/4 Self-Assembler. And there's nothing else that powerful here. I guess Aviary Mechanic's interesting for ETB effects. And I suppose I will just take the Aviary Mechanic there. I don't want to have too many just like low power 3-drops here. We already have a lot of 3 mana 1/2s, so I don't want to fill up a deck of just all that. Ballista Charger's nice, but so is Harnessed Lightning. This is 2 mana for at least 3 damage. If you need less damage, you get to hold on to that energy for later. With a Scrapper Champion in the deck, I am pretty interested in the Harnessed Lightning. Because the great thing about Harnessed Lightning is, yeah, 3 mana instant speed, 3 damage. That's the worst case scenario, and the best case scenario is if they have something powerful that only has 2 or 1 toughness, you can just keep the rest of the energy for later for use on something like that. This pack's not good. I'll just take a 5/4, I guess. Defiant Salvager, definitely the best card in that pack. Die Young, the best card in this pack. We're seeing black stuff late, so again, may have been the better color paired to be in had we got in there earlier, but at this point, with Visionary Augmenter, Double Glint, Sleeve Artisan, and Gear Shift Ace, we're doing fine with the red cards that we do have here. We could try out the Workshop Assistant this time around. Take another Glint, Sleeve Artisan. The worst case scenario for this card is that it's a 3-mana 3/3. The Frontline Rebel's just a 3-mana 3/3 with downside, so we'll take the Artisan over that every day. And our non-creature slots are very full with like removal, so I don't think I'm running any combat tricks here. Either Inspector or Bastion Mastodon. Unfortunately, only 2 self-assemblers, but that's really the cutoff for them to be playable. You don't want to run a single self-assembler, but if you have at least 2, they're like fine. They're just not as excitingly powerful as they could be. Yeah. Fireforger's Puzzle Knot actually isn't completely unplayable, again, with servo tokens running around in the format. Being able to kill a couple of those is nice, and the fact that the second part of the Puzzle Knot you can do at instant speed is what makes it pretty good. So you basically play it, it enters the battlefield, you shoot one of their servos, but then later on, the second part, that extra 1 damage, very similar to how I've been saying with the Aether Torch Renegades, you use that extra damage, stack it on with whatever combat damage you're doing to finish off a bigger creature. So the Fireforger's Puzzle Knot is not completely unplayable here, but I'm also not a massive fan of it, so I may cut it here. So here we just have like a red-white deck, kind of just a basic red-white deck. Not a ton of vehicles, just the 2. We're not going super hard on any theme here. Just red-white good stuff, really. So we have 24 creatures, 15 non-creatures. We have 2 vehicles as well. We can cut quite a few creatures out of this deck. What are our weakest 2 drops? I'm not a big fan of the Audacious Infiltrator. Just 1 toughness is a hard sell. Luckily, this does do pretty well against one of the reasons that 1 toughness isn't great. One of the biggest reasons 1 toughness isn't awesome. Excuse me. Got a lot of hiccups going on. So the reason that 1 toughness cards aren't super great in the format, again, is because there's so many servos running around, but this gets past that by being unblockable by artifact creatures. The other problem, though, is there is also a lot of removal that works really well against 1 toughness stuff. We've seen multiple Die Youngs getting passed quite late, and that would be the removal spell that would absolutely hose us if we're playing 3/1s, because then they get to kill our 3/1 and hold on to an energy for later, which is a really good deal. There's also cards like Chandra's Pyro Helix that we have in here that split up 2 damage divided as you choose wherever you want. That's also really good against Infiltrator. I think in general, they're still pretty fragile and not a card I'm super into unless I'm incredibly aggressive, so I'm probably still cutting the Infiltrator here. We don't have any Revolt to go with these Convictions here to combo with them well, so I'll cut those. Got 5 2-drops here. 5 seems pretty solid to me for your average moderately aggressive deck. Still got to cut 13 cards. This is going to be a lot of cards to cut here. Herald of the Fair does seem not that great in this deck. Wait, where did it go? Oh, I put it in the 4-drop slot by accident. I just don't love cards that have low toughness for the cost, because your 3-mana 3/2s often trade into opposing 2-mana 2/2s or 2-mana 2/1s, and it's almost never a good deal to trade down in terms of your card's mana cost. So the fact that this card's ability isn't all that impressive definitely makes me want to try to cut it there. That being said, the Glint Sleeve Artisans, they're 3 power and toughness for the mana cost, whether you split it up between 2 cards or just the 1. And I think this combos really well in our deck, because whenever we just need little cards to crew our vehicles, little 1-power creatures to crew our vehicles, we can spit out a servo. Or if we need artifacts to combo with our Quicksmith Rebel, we can make a servo. But anytime we don't, just bam, 3 mana, 3/3, great on curve. I think Glint-Sleeve Artisan actually seems like a really solid card for this deck. I do wish I ended up with that Dawn Feather Eagle over the Daring Demolition, because as we saw, there just ended up being stronger white cards being passed to us early in those packs than the black cards. There were still a lot of black cards later in the packs, but nothing like massively powerful like the Visionary Augmenter and the Gearshift Ace. So I think all in all, this draft would have went better if I had just taken the Dawn Feather Eagle. Once we'd committed to white at that point, because we do have a lot of servo production, so having a card that can buff our whole field would be really nice. Then we would always want to go wide with Glint-Sleeve Artisan and Augmenter here. So Pillarbug's not great here, just a 3 mana 2/3. And we have enough artifacts, especially with Fabricate with servo token production, that we don't need filler ones like that to work with our Quicksmith Rebel. Definitely keeping the Aether Torch Renegades in. Frontline Rebel's one of our weakest 3-drops, because it's a 3 mana 3/3 with downside when we have 3 mana 3/3s with upside. Fireside Infiltrator's interesting, because it gets around having low power and toughness for its mana cost with the ability to just constantly crew something and keep damaging our opponents. That being said, we only have the 2 vehicles to crew, so we're not doing it incredibly often, so I'm not the biggest fan of that ever, so I think I will cut it. Scrap Trawler, similar, gets around the low power and toughness for the cost with just a great ability like the Aether Torch Renegades do. So I'll definitely keep Scrap Trawler in. Probably keeping Workshop Assistant in as well. We just have good artifacts to bring back late game. And maybe we cut Workshop Assistant. Scrap Trawler isn't gonna bring back, you know, our 4 mana Untethered Express or our 5 mana Self-Assemblers basically ever. But it's also just a good aggressive creature with 3 power for the 3 mana. And it'll always bring back a Renegade Map or a Puzzle Knot. If we do end up playing the Puzzle Knot, that would be a big reason to do so. It would be another cheap artifact that'll constantly be in the graveyard. I do really like the Workshop Assistant always bringing back a big artifact. But that being said, we don't have a ton of them. We are often going to just draw a Workshop Assistant in the early game with something pretty mediocre in the grave to pick up, and it's only a 1/2 for 3. Yeah. I mean, the theoretical value of this card is pretty high when you draw it late game. You know, it's a 3 mana 1/2 that puts you up a card, and you're picking up your best artifact from your grave, so it's like slightly better than drawing a card when it dies. But that's all theoretical. We have to have a good artifact in our grave for it to do that, and we won't consistently because we only have, 3 good artifacts and some mediocre small ones. I think I am going to cut Workshop Assistant. I do have to cut something here, and we've got 18 creatures still, so I got to cut down on some creatures here. I don't want that many. With only 2 Self-Assemblers, I guess I'm okay just having a Sail back in here as filler. I'd much rather just have triple Self-Assembler. That's always just a super fun time. But I'd also just rather have 3 4-drops and 3 5-drops here, I think. Just some more big game-ending cards. I think I will cut an Aether Inspector and we go 17 creatures here. So Siege Modification, 3 mana for an aura that gives +3/+0 and First Strike isn't super impressive. The really impressive part of this is being able to throw it on a vehicle. We can only do that with 2 cards in the whole deck, so I think Siege Modification is getting cut. I think also, honestly, we should probably cut Karizev's Expertise. We don't have any ways to sacrifice anything. And we are somewhat aggressive here, but I don't know if I'm so aggressive that I want to dedicate a card slot to a Active Treason style effect. Destructive Tampering is interesting because neither of these effects are something you'd normally main deck, but in this format there are a lot of artifacts and they tend to be pretty powerful. And the fact that this card is flexible, so it can do something either way, means there's sometimes where you main deck a Destructive Tampering. I can see this card getting us the win late game sometimes. There can be positions where our opponents have 9 life, and we can just be like, alright, none of your creatures can block, send in with the team. We have a lot of creatures, and we curve out. We curve out pretty consistently. So I could see a lot of a lot of situations where we just have a lot of creatures on board, and Destructive Tampering closes the game out for us. Sorry, let me rearrange some stuff on my desk really quick. I was just doing a lot of adulting stuff right before the video, getting a bunch of stuff set up for selling my car. So I have so much stuff on my desk that I had to push my keyboard way farther to the right than I usually do, and I keep bumping it with my mouse is the problem. Keep bumping into it when I scroll left, so I keep accidentally cutting and adding cards. All right, that should fix it there. So my apologies about that. It has been a busy month. All right, so we're all back into it. Get the mind back in the game, get your head back in the game. Yeah, so I did the whole spiel on Destructive Tampering. I don't think this card's as unplayable as it looks, but that being said, I still have to cut 4 cards. I gotta cut something. I'm gonna cut a Tampering here. Probably gonna cut a Puzzle Knot as well, since I did end up cutting one of our artifact returning cards. We just have a Scrap Trawler now. You know, if we pick up a Renegade Map or a Skyskiff with it, then cool, Scrap Trawler did well. Otherwise, a 3-mana 3/2 isn't the absolute end of the world, and it's a rare. We get to show off when we play it, and it's another card for Quicksmith Rebel to make good. I think there's enough reasons to play Scrap Trawler, even if we only have 2 cheap artifacts. So we'll cut the Puzzle Knot there. We have similar removal spells like Pyro Helix and Furious Reprisal, also just split damage among where we want it. We don't need the Puzzle Knot doing that sort of effect, and we still need to cut 2 more cards. However, with a Renegade Map, it's really easy to cut a land, because essentially any game where we draw a Renegade Map, we've drawn another land. So Renegade Map does make it really, really easy to cut down to like a 16 land deck. That being said, do I want to cut down to a 15 land deck where essentially I'd be playing 16 lands because Renegade Map would be one of them? I don't think so. I think I do still want 17 lands here, although, you know, the Kaladesh format, especially this deck just in general, doesn't have a lot of mana sinks and stuff. That is one thing that we notice a lot in Adventures in the Forgotten Realms. There were a lot of mana sinks like classes and just abilities on creatures and stuff that made you often want 17 to 18 lands quite often. But here, like this deck, our curve does stop at 5 mana. I don't think we have a single ability on any of our cards that requires us to pay any extra mana. Oh yeah, we're getting all of our value up front, so we don't really need big mana sink mana in the late game. We don't really have any card draw, so we're not going to be in a position where we draw a card draw spell and we need to have 3 mana to cast it to draw 2, and then also 6 mana left over to cast whatever we draw off of it. I could see going to 16 lands here. It's probably still wrong. We do have quite a bit going on late game. We have an average of 3.1. But I'm definitely cutting down to 16 lands plus a Renegade Map at least. But I don't think I'm going down to 15. So let's see our colors again. 11 red, 8 white. Let's cut... Visionary Augmenter does cost double white, and it's one of the stronger cards in the deck. I think I have to decide if I'm cutting a red card or a white card here, and if I cut a red card, I'll cut a mountain. If I cut a white card, I'll cut a plains. Just make it nice and simple there. If I cut an artifact, I guess I'm kind of out of luck there. So Aviary Mechanic doesn't do a ton in this deck, but there are some good combos with a mechanic, like returning an Artisan that's fabricated already to fabricate another servo out, returning a Renegade to get more energy, to kind of reset the count on it so I can start pinging again. Returning an Augmenter is fantastic, get more servos that way. Yeah, no, there's enough combos with mechanic, I definitely like that. Eddy Trailhawk, we really don't have a lot of evasion, so just being able to give things flying on the attack does seem good to me, but it does seem like one of the weaker cards. Restoration Specialist, I really like the ability to pick up an Untethered Express, just because of how powerful that card is. It's kind of all in on that combo, but the worst case scenario with Specialist is it does chump block late game and then pick up something mediocre. like a renegade map or something off of a chump block if we have the 1 extra mana. Fireweaver's good with all the servos. Blocks well early game while crewing our vehicles. I like all of our 3 drops. I really like all of our 4 drops. Maybe the sailback isn't necessary. I really don't think I want to cut any of our non-creatures here, because I think every non-creature in this deck is really good. Yeah, I think it's between these 3. And I'm not really sure which is the best cut here. If you have any opinions, you can leave them in the comment section below, because I'm going to cut one of these and not going to be 100% sure that I cut the right one. So I think I will just cut the sailback here. I think we have enough decent stuff going on curve, and to try to get out relatively aggressive early game, especially with Fireweaver damaging our opponent when we're making servos. And then hopefully Untethered Express, Double Self-Assembler, Scrapper Champion, and Quicksmith Rebel are powerful enough late game that we don't need a 5-mana 5/4. I think 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, I think all 5 of these cards are super powerful late game cards, regardless of mana cost. These can all go par to par with your general 5-drop style cards. So I think one of our worst matchups is going to be like green decks that just play like 6/6, because they will block the board really well against us. All of our removal is damage based. That's probably one of the most scared against. But other than that, looks like a solid little red-white artifacts deck here. And let's go ahead and cut a mountain here, because we did cut a red card. Throw in some Kaladesh lands for maximum flavor, and then we will get into some gameplay. I wonder if they let you search by set. I guess not. I've got to open up the filter. There we go. Oh, it won't let me do it. I guess you just can't do that during draft. Oh, we got to go in the old-fashioned way. We'll find him. We'll find him somewhere. As always, there will be timestamps in the description below to skip forward to gameplay when I'm desperately trying to locate the Kaladesh lands, because I just need it for flavor. Do I not have Kaladesh lands? There's all the white lands. Bunch of Jumpstart. And then, of course, in the time bar, it'll also just say between drafting, deck building, and gameplay where to skip ahead to there. So there's all the Amonkhet lands. They should be right after that, right? Oh, there they are. All right. Ooh, I like this one. I like the kind of rolling vortex-looking clouds there. That is very fancy. Now for red. So now we know they're like right. They should be right after the Amonkhet ones, just a little bit after it, because this set did come out in like November last year. Amonkhet came out August last year. Ooh, that is very nice. I love the temples there. Very Indian-inspired temples. For those who don't know, Kaladesh is kind of like steampunk and Indian culture inspired, which is really cool. Makes for some beautiful, beautiful vistas and just artwork in general, as you can see on this mountain here. But a lot of the artifacts, they all have a really beautiful, intricate style as well, like you see on Self-Assembler, Untethered Express there, Sky Skiff. Beautiful, beautiful artwork. Really cool set, flavorfully. All right, so here's our draft deck. I should go ahead and give it a name while I'm at it, since I've already spent a boatload of time in the deck building, more than I usually do. All aboard the pain train. Untethered Express all the way to victory, hopefully. Pick one, pack one Untethered Express, and go for it. Hopefully it pans out here. I like this hand a lot. We curve out well. We get to play a first striker turn 2, a 3-2 turn 3, and when we hit our late game, we'll have 2 4/4s at least. So that should be really good. It's possible that we should play Fireweaver first, because then we get the Fireweaver damage off of the Scrap Trawler. But I think I could just play that later, just get actual combat damage in instead. It's just as much of a damage trade-off either way. Either I attack them for 1 and hit them for 1 when our artifact enters the battlefield, or I attack them for 2. Same amount of damage either way, as long as I get the Fireweaver out before I start playing Self-Assemblers, which I will here. I get to play two drops on turn 4 here. One of the unfortunate things about Kaladesh, in my opinion, is that it has one of the ugliest boards. I think that the color scheme, the background and stuff, it is all beautiful. The problem is having to look at this during gameplay for a couple hours, for an extended period of time. It is incredibly bright, which is definitely an issue. So Night Market Aeronaut from our opponent. However, they didn't get to revolt, so it just comes in as a 2/2 flyer. Definitely not a fantastic deal for our opponent, and we get to keep slamming in with our 2/1 first strike because of that. And then we'll just start sending in some 4/4s. That will hopefully be bigger than anything they have. They are sending in the Night Market Aeronaut. The only thing I could block with is an Eddy Trailhawk, so it's a fine attack if they don't need to block. It looks like they changed their mind. They are going to just drop their own Self-Assembler, pick up their second copy. Untethered Express, choo-choo. Well, it doesn't have haste, but I think it is still more powerful to cast this than Self-Assembler. Self-Assembler doesn't have haste either. Cast this and I get to start sending in a first striking trampling Untethered Express. Seems like a good deal to me. I'll go ahead and attack with our Self-Assembler first, see if we can't clear some of this board for the Pain Train. But then we are definitely casting the Pain Train itself. And we will pass the turn here. And an Underhanded Designs. This can be a removal spell, right? If they control 2 or more artifacts, they can use it as a removal spell for 2. Otherwise, they drain us for 1 life whenever they play an artifact. Or whenever one enters the battlefield, I should say. Ooh, Welding Sparks can clear out their board. We can get an attack in with everything. However, they've left 4 mana untapped here. They could have cast Self-Assembler instead of Underhanded Designs. This is a very strange turn of events for our opponent. I'm assuming they just have instant speed removal to kill Untethered Express. We don't really have a way to play around that, so I think we just crew and send in. We have a Welding Sparks as a backup. If they try to use a combat trick to save Untethered Express, we can use the Welding Sparks to save it. At least... Unlicensed Disintegration, yep, that'll do it. Nothing we can do about that. The Pain Train is right in the graveyard now. And here we have the Self-Assembler, unfortunately with no third copy. So our opponent's second Self-Assembler will block ours, but our Welding Sparks here will do 4 damage because we have an artifact on board, so we can clear out their Self-Assembler, clear the way for ours to just keep getting in. We can beat a 2/2 on board with our 4/4 and 2/1 first striker, get damage in that way. Renegade Map's a fine draw here. We can grab a land and thin out the deck here. We also get a damage when we play that. I'll play this first just in case they have like a +1/+1 spell, because now Welding Sparks will go ahead and do 5 damage, so be a little stronger here. Send in all this stuff. They just block Fireweaver, but I can't send an Eddy Trailhawk anyway. Yeah, I guess I just send in these two. Well, we're at 19. We're at 19, so on the off chance they're in a position where they want to chump block our 4/4 or something, we get just 1 extra damage in by doing this. There's really no downside to it because we're at 19 life, so no amount of crazy haste thing is going to make us wish that we left back our Fire Weaver to block. So I am going to, ooh, Fortuitous Find is very powerful here. Pick up an artifact and a creature from their graveyard to their hand with 2 self-assemblers, so just draw 2 4/4s there. Very powerful. So I am stopping during our upkeep here so I can go ahead and grab a land before I draw a card because I really don't want to draw a land, so we'll thin our deck out a little bit here. Just grab any basic before we go to our draw step. And a Glint Sleeve Artisan it is. Reckless Fireweaver are going to be doing a lot of work here because I feel like with just 2 toughness creatures out there, I want to go wide with the Glint Sleeve Artisan. The self-assemblers, the 4/4s, they're going to block a 3/3 or a 2/2 just the same. They're going to block it really well either way. So I think just fabricating here to get an extra damage off of the Fireweaver seems good. I don't know if I want to attack with self-assembler here. Because it'll just trade for a Malfist squad. But, I mean, I guess later on it'll just trade for a self-assembler, so really either way. I'd rather trade for a self-assembler with our self-assembler than trade for a Malfist squad, but they can just leave the Malfist squad untapped forever. Yeah, I'm just going to attack with Gear Shift Ace. The only way they can kill our Gear Shift Ace is by double blocking, and if they double block, we choose to kill the Night Market Aeronaut so they don't have any flyers, so we can keep chipping away at them with our Eddy Trail Hawk. So attacking with Gear Shift Ace is definitely good. I don't think that... oh, they already know this is a mountain. I should just slam it down. If they didn't know this was a mountain, we could start holding lands at this point. But, yeah, attacking with Self-Assembler I think is definitely not right there, because we do have double Furious Reprisal. That'll do 2 damage. Ooh! Speak of the devil, and she shall appear. That'll do 2 damage to 2 targets, and we could just wipe the board and get in for lethal. So, yep. The Furious Reprisal will come in very clutch that game. Definitely showing off a ton of power on that card. Alright, well, there goes game 1, a victory for the Pain Train, the Choo Choo. I don't know if Choo Choo's the best name for this deck. We only have 1 Untethered Express and 1 way to bring it back from the grave, so it's not like we're all in on Untethered Express, but it was the pick 1, pack 1. It is probably the strongest card in the deck. We've got a lot of Chandra-based removal spell. There's almost definitely a more clever name to discover for this deck. With 4 Chandra... or 3 Chandra-based removal spells, 2 Furious Reprisal and a Pyro Helix. And the train. I guess it could be like Angry Trains. Because we have Furious cards. I'm definitely not a linguistics expert or particularly good with English class style stuff, so just racking my brain here for more clever names. Alright, so what do we want to do here? I'm kind of interested in playing Eddy Trail Hawk over the Specialist, because I like the Specialist late game more than anything else. I guess like we could start attacking in for 2, but we also get really got by like a Pyro Helix or something like that, because it only has the 1 toughness. And if they play any servos, it's just not going to attack in well. The Eddy Trail Hawk's a lot more likely to do some work here, just tripping in for 1 in the sky for a few turns. Ooh, Sky Skiff. Well, I'm not going to do any work then. We do have Untethered Express on 4 now, which makes me really happy to have a Restoration Specialist to pick that up. They don't have anything to crew the Sky Skiff yet, and it has 2 powers, so there's no reason to try to block with Eddy Trail Hawk, so we'll play that, then we'll play Aether Torch Renegade, and we do have 6 energy, the 2 from the Hawk and the 4 from the Renegade, so got a lot of energy here. We do need 8 energy in order to do some damage to our opponent's face with the Renegade, though, but we can definitely clear the path, get rid of a lot of servos here. That being said, not something we're likely to do. We're probably just going to keep crewing an Untethered Express for now, because our opponent needs to have servos on board in order to shoot servos. And with Defiant Salvager, they'll be able to just sacrifice those servos to make the Defiant Salvager bigger and bigger. So Aether Torch Renegade not likely to do a ton here. And unfortunately, we don't have a way to get an artifact out this turn, so I can't just shoot Defiant Salvager with a Quicksmith Rebel, just because we don't have an artifact on board to do so. As much as I would love to do that, it'll have to wait till at least next turn. And ideally, I won't do the 2 damage ability on the Untethered Express, because then I won't be attacking in with the Untethered Express. So it seems not great to me. So we cannot attack in with the Eddy Trail Hawk now, because if we attack with the Hawk, they can crew the Sky Skiff with their Defiant Salvager. Crewing you can do regardless of if the creature is summoning sick or not. You just tap the creature to crew it. So the Salvager could immediately tap and crew the Sky Skiff there and do a nice block. Just pass turn here. Opponent stuck on 3 mana. We'll go to our turn. We do have a Harness Lightning now to blow up a blocker if they try to get us that way. I think I like crewing the Untethered Express. Doing it with the Eddy Trailhawk actually here, because Eddy Trailhawk isn't going to block well anyway, and with Aether Torch Renegade we can stack up some more damage on top of the Harness Lightning if anything absolutely crazy goes on. But it looks like there is a Welding Sparks from our opponent. If we could kill that Sky Skiff in any way, we could lower our opponent's Welding Sparks to only 3 damage. But we don't have a way to do that. Yep, Untethered Express just going to die here. Yeah, just trying to see if there's anything I'm missing here. We're just going to drop a Restoration Specialist and pick it right back up then. But I think I will go ahead and Harness Lightning the Defiant Salvager. Should I wait till their end step to do that? I probably should, because Quicksmith Rebel can still kill Defiant Salvager without costing us a card. So we don't really have to worry about the Salvager unless it's going to become a 4/4 or better. Because if it becomes a 3/3, then we just Harness Lightning it. And if it, well, I guess we have 6 energy. We can Harness Lightning it no matter what. Yeah, no, we're really safe to just hold for the Harness Lightning, and hopefully they just don't play any expendable artifacts. If they don't play any expendable artifacts for a while, we can still just wait for our Quicksmith Rebel to deal with that Salvager. With just 2 damage. The fact that its ability is Sorcery Speed is very helpful. Probably one of the biggest reasons that Rakdos Sacrifice is so good in Adventures in the Forgotten Realms is that all of these sacrifice effects are like instant speed, so you can always respond to a removal spell with them. Alright, Night Market Aeronaut, and they are not going to sacrifice here, so that is just a 2/2 flyer. Would I rather kill a Salvager or Night Market Aeronaut here? Or just neither? Because they have like a Sky Skiff, I think either way is fine. I love that Quicksmith Rebel can kill both of them. I think I'll kill a Defiant Salvager because that could turn into a 3/3 or better, where Quicksmith Rebel wouldn't kill it. But Night Market Aeronaut, no matter when I finally get an artifact to suit up, is going to be able to kill Night Market Aeronaut. Oh, I forgot to pop my Restoration Specialist, so I've missed out on 1 point of mana value there. This is an instant speed effect, though, and Untethered Express only costs 4, so it doesn't really matter. We don't have a 1 mana ability here, but that could have come back to bite me. I clicked a little too fast. I'll attack with the Specialist. If they don't block, we just get in for 2. If they do, we sack it. Play an Untethered Express here. They almost definitely block, though. Alright, they crew the Sky Skiff. And there's the block. Alright. Untethered Express, come on back. 1 artifact, 0 enchantments. Main phase 2, drop Untethered Express. Again, definitely Definitely the misplay there, accidentally skipping through my turn, but it didn't cost us anything since we didn't have any 1-mana abilities to use this turn anyway. And thanks to that Harnessed Lightning, we are up in energy again, because we only spent 2 out of the 3 that it gave us, so we have enough energy to give something flying like 7 attacks in a row. That being said, we do have to clear that Night Market Aeronaut and the Sky Skiff out of the way in order to attack with the Hawk. We've got a lot of energy towards the Renegade too. They are going to go ahead and kill the Renegade with a Die Young here. -2, -2. I don't think I want to crew my Untethered Express in response, because that just leaves our Untethered Express open to die to sorcery speed removal. There's no reason to send a damage anywhere, so we'll just hold on to this energy for a later play. I guess if we throw 1 damage at the Night Market Aeronaut, it can't attack into an Eddy Trail Hawk. Ruinous Gremlin. With a Ruinous Gremlin, they can spend 3 mana, sacrifice that to destroy Untethered Express. So clearing out the Aether Torch Renegade was very important for our opponent here. That being said, now we are just going to open ourselves up for the 2-for-1, because it's worth it to potentially leave the Untethered Express out here. We could play this slower and just play Self-Assembler, then Quicksmith Rebel the Self-Assembler, but if we do that, by the time we do that, that Ruinous Gremlin's just going to eat our Untethered Express. The main goal we have here is just clearing that off the board, so we get to keep the best card that we have on board. The problem with doing this is now all our eggs are very much in one basket. If they blow up this Untethered Express, I guess it's not incredibly disastrous for us, but it is a very good deal for them, because Untethered Express is absolutely bonkers here. They do kill the Quicksmith Rebel, which luckily does not kill the Express, so we do get to just keep attacking him with the Express instead. Alright. Quicksmith Rebel, I think, pretty much served its purpose there. Cleared out the Ruinous Gremlin so Untethered Express can start sending in. The Pain Train is going off the rails. Now we have Self-Assembler here, so we also have a couple 4/4s. One right now and another next turn. As much as I'd like to get every last bit of value that I can by getting the extra little chip damage from the Fireweaver here, I think it's better to just have the 4/4s out and attacking as quickly as possible here when our opponent's board is small enough that that 4/4s can attack in well. Goes to our turn. We have a Glint Sleeve Artisan now. If I end up attacking with an Eddy Trail Hawk, I can go ahead and make Untethered Express or Self-Assembler flying. If I don't make Self-Assembler flying, then I guess they can double block with a 2/2 and a 2/3. They can do that even if I do make it flying, though, because they can double block it with a 2/2 flyer and a 2/3 flyer if they crew the Sky Skiff with Alley Strangler. So a double block's going to eat my Self-Assembler at the cost of one of their 2 blockers, but Untethered Express does attack in as a 6/6. They don't have a good way to block a 6/6 unless they have an instant speed spell. So I think I crew Untethered Express with the Eddy Trail Hawk. There's no reason to sacrifice the Eddy Trail Hawk for a flying attack this turn, because they can double block with Skiff and Aeronaut. I think I'm just slamming down another Self-Assembler here. So we crew Express with the Hawk, just attack in both, trade into a smaller creature here to help clear the board for the rest of our threats, because we have so many cards coming up here that we can trade a card down to keep the aggression on. So we'll trade down into the Flyer here, I think. Well, no, we'll trade down into the 2/3 Menace, because the Sky Skiff doesn't give them another blocker. It just makes one of their blockers a better blocker. So just lower the amount of blockers they have in general there. And here's the second Self-Assembler. No third in this deck, but just a couple copies of the card is still solid. I could have taken the action just to shuffle my deck. It is fun to just keep shuffling. It's pretty disgusting, but it doesn't have any way to deal with our Untethered Express, so we're still in a really good position here. They have a single blocker. They can use Chandra to -3 to kill Self-Assembler here. This is probably the best Chandra ever printed, just because she has so many fantastic abilities for that low mana cost, and there's pretty good competition there. The 6 mana Chandra from the core set was very powerful, but this is also a super powerful Planeswalker here. The worst case scenario is it's a great 4 mana removal spell, a 4 mana removal spell that also is a miniature fog, forcing me to attack into Chandra, or else risk losing more creatures. I would very much expect a -3 from our opponent here. I don't think they're in any position to try to keep Chandra around more than one turn, so they may as well just stop as much damage as they possibly can here by clearing out our 4/4. They may do something else here. Maybe they have another card to cast, in which case they'll go ahead and add 2 red mana and cast a 4-drop here. But I highly doubt they'll be exiling a card from the top of their library. Alright, so yeah, they are going to go ahead and kill our Self-Assembler with Chandra.
Time to toast your marshmallows. S'mores, anyone?
Alright, she's toasting our marshmallows, and while the flavor fail, we're going to Chandra's Pyrohelix to kill Chandra and deal 1 damage to our opponent here. Pretty brutal. We might as well hold off on that until later, since it is instant speed. We only need 2 mana to do that, so I can play Artisan first, hold up 2 mana for Pyrohelix, and by playing Artisan first, I can crew Untethered Express with a Servo instead of an Eddy Trailhawk. That being said, they have a 2/2 and a 2/3 flyer, so Eddy Trailhawk isn't attacking in well anyway. I think we crew the Express with the Eddy Trailhawk, attack in with it, and it's possible that they just died a Pyrohelix to the face here, because we're attacking for 7. They take 5 if they block with the Aeronaut. They probably block with the Skiff, though. But, yeah, it's possible that just throwing Chandra's Pyrohelix at their face will kill them instead. But we're definitely attacking their face, because even if we can't find lethal here, we can ping Chandra for just 1 damage. Yeah, if they block here, we don't have lethal. We just put them to 1 life. Either way, they block with the Aeronaut or with the Sky Skiff. Yeah, we could throw 2 damage at them, but that puts them to 1, so we'll go ahead and Pyrohelix now. Chandra can go bye-bye, and we'll put them down to 2 life.
It's over when I say it's over.
And then it's possibly better to just play a Fireweaver here. I'm actually just going to play Fireweaver over the Artisan. There is at least 1 Wrath effect in this format. I don't know if there is one in red or black. But, you know, just in case, Glint Sleeve Artisan is better to play after the board's been wiped because it gives us 2 creatures spread out well. And this way also, if they somehow find a way to get just a million blockers there by fabricating a Servo out, we're getting 1 like guaranteed damage to their face just from Reckless Fireweaver's Enter the Battlefield effect on the artifact triggers. I think our board's like plenty wide and pretty likely to kill them either play that we make, so with that one we have some reach even if the boards get blocked pretty well. So 2-0 now, and that game was very much showing off the power of the Pain Train. Prophetic Prism, turn 2 from our opponent. They are on red-white as well. The Prism going to draw them a card when it comes into play, and they can use it to filter their mana into whatever color they need. We start off with our turn 2 Eddy Trailhawk, getting a couple energy here, but we don't really have a follow-up play. We have 3 removal spells, Chandra's Pyrohelix and a couple Furious Reprisal, but that should be pretty good against red-white. I'd expect a lot of small cards from them. Aviary Mechanic giving them a lot of value here. The turn 3 Aviary Mechanic to pick up the Prophetic Prism. By picking up the Prism, they get to recast it to draw another card. So I am going to attack with our 1/2 flyer here, because it's not going to block the 2/2 on the ground well. We'll just keep taking that damage for a bit. So we take 2 here. We did draw into an Untethered Express. I guess I could blow up the mechanic, but with 2 Furious Reprisals in hand, would really like to be able to get a potential 2 for 1 here. And a Propeller pioneers the play from our opponent. Please make it a 3-2 flyer. Oh yeah, alright. Is that to the point where I Furious Reprisal instead of playing Untethered Express here? I do like killing those cards, and I like doing it when they're tapped out, but just dropping the Pain Train is also pretty impressive. Doesn't have haste, but it'll attack in really well next turn, especially if I can clear the board before I attack. I think I'll take the 2 for 1 later. There aren't a lot, if I remember correctly, and if I'm wrong here, it could come back to bite me, but as far as I remember, there aren't a lot of ways to permanently buff your whole field in this format. So if they have any buff for these 2 tubes, or these 2 toughness creatures, it's very likely to... So there's a Furious Reprisal. They're going to go for the 1 for 1 there, kill our Hawk, and do 2 to our face. But any buff is very likely to just be a combat trick from them. They only have 1 mana up now, so I doubt they'll have it. We do get to crew the Express in response to their removal so that we don't take damage from the mechanic. Now we just take the 3 in the sky, go to our turn. If I Furious Reprisal here, I don't get to attack with the Express this turn, but I'm at 13 life here, so I think it's definitely worth it. Let's go ahead and Reprisal now, clear out both of their creatures on board. Pass the turn, facing an empty board, but our board is basically empty as well. We've got an Untethered Express lying in wait, but without a Conductor, it's not going to do much damage. We've got a Gear Shift Ace in hand now, though, so we have the perfect Conductor for that train. There's a Servo Exhibition from our opponent. We can Chandra's Pyrohelix to blow that stuff up, but because they're only 1/1s, it's completely unnecessary right now. So I think I would rather play a 4/4. Because I have 2 really good options here. I can play Gear Shift Ace, crew the Untethered Express, and attack with a 5/5 First Strike Trample this turn. Or I can just play a 4/4 and crew the Untethered Express with a 4/4, and then I have a 4/4 for future turns. Because, like, if I play the Gear Shift Ace and crew the Express, then I can also Pyrohelix and keep their board empty, which is interesting. I guess that's, like, safer defensively. I'm going to go with the Self-Assembler here. We'll go with the bit of a bold play here. A little bit of a less safe play, but if they don't have much interaction or something ridiculously good to use those servos with, this will still be... well, this will be the better play if they don't have much interaction, because then we'll just be bashing in with a 4/4 and a 6/6 trample next turn, and we can just clear their board next turn instead. So here's Gear Shift Ace to crew the Untethered Express, so that I can attack with the Self-Assembler as well. We get to attack in while holding up instant speed Chandra's Pyrohelix and Welding Sparks. So any kind of combat tricks here we can survive past. The only thing they can really have is just like removal to kill the Express. Ooh! If they don't have a response to this, we can really get them. By blowing up 2 of their artifacts here, their Welding Sparks will go down to only 4 damage, which is not enough to kill the Untethered Express. Untethered Express survives, and they concede the game, having the Pyrohelix to whittle down their artifact count to exactly small enough to keep Untethered Express alive. That's got to be a big bummer for our opponent. But definitely a good time for us, keeping that Untethered Express just rolling in. The biggest takeaway from this draft so far, as we're 3-0, is to just slam down that Untethered Express. I don't care what colors you're in. Pick 1 pack 1 that thing, pick 1 pack 2 that thing, pick 1 pack 3 that thing. Untethered Express is one heck of a card. So here we are in round 4 now. We do have Chandra's Pyrohelix and Aether Torch Renegade no matter what. When we make it to 5 mana, we have double Assembler, but the awkward part is, the really good part of the Assembler is the fact that it draws the second Assembler out of your deck. Having them both in hand like sort of puts us down a card, because it's 1 card draw that we're not getting that we would have otherwise. You know, I think if this were just 3 red lands, the 2-drop and the 3-drop, and then 2 regular 5-drops, I'd probably keep this, but it's borderline keepable already, or borderline mulliganable already, because it's only one color, and the fact that both self-assemblers are in hand is such a huge bummer that I am going to mulligan it, and we have both self-assemblers in hand again. But here's the fancy part of this. This hand is actually strictly better than the last hand, because the really fancy thing with the self-assemblers is you mulligan like that, throw one of the self-assemblers on the bottom of your deck, and now we basically still have a 7-card hand. Our hand is just as big as our first hand would have been, because our first hand would have just had 2 self-assemblers in it, so we lost a bit of value there. But this hand still has 2 self-assemblers in it, so we basically get to have a hand that actually has both colors now, and a stronger card in Quicksmith Rebel, while still having just as many cards available thanks to Self-Assembler being able to just grab the second copy. Alright, our opponent is off to an insane start, and I'm very worried about this matchup. I am going to go ahead and Glint Sleeve Artisan and make a servo token so I have something out to throw my Quicksmith Rebel's ability onto. But our opponent has some massive combos going on here. They have a Whirler Virtuoso, comes in with 3 energy, they spend it to make a 1/1 flyer. They have Decoction Module, getting energy when they play creatures. So they've got extra energy there. They have the Enraged Giant being improvised onto the board for cheap, thanks to the fact that they have all of these artifacts. So they're getting a 4/4 Trample Haste this early. Opponent's going really combo-y here, and I'm a fan. Really cool stuff from our opponent. Luckily, we do have a lot of the removal we're going to need to survive all of this nonsense. But it is quite scary. So here I'm probably going to have to just Welding Sparks. And I don't love that. Because I definitely don't want to just sit here taking 4 too long. I could play Quicksmith Rebel, that way we can shoot like their 1/1 flyer without spending a card really. Instead of spending a removal spell to kill the giant. But they're tapped out now. This is about the only time I know I get to kill the giant, because if they're not tapped out, they can have instant speed red removal to kill my servo. The other thing I don't love about killing the giant is the fact that Whirler Virtuoso is a great combo with Decoction Module, because the Virtuoso gives them energy whenever they play it, the Decoction Module brings it back to hand. So if they have 7 mana, they can just keep every turn for 7, just getting another 1/1 flyer, which will be pretty annoying and a pretty good combo, but Quicksmith Rebel can kind of mitigate that combo. They can keep making a 1/1 every turn, but we can keep shooting that 1/1 every turn. So I think eventually we have a plan to deal with the Whirler Virtuoso Decoction Module combo. We don't really have a plan to deal with this Enraged Giant other than play our own 4/4. And I'd rather deal with it as quickly as possible because it is trampling over. We're going down to 12 if we take another hit from this because we're just not going to block. So we'll shoot that now. We don't get any attacks in because I chose to get the servo out of the Artisan. It's not big enough. It's not big enough to get in. And I guess, unfortunately, the other thing about Whirler Virtuoso is with the Decoction Module, giving them energy whenever they play cards, they're very likely to just keep having enough energy to keep spitting out a ton of servos anyway. Because every time they make a servo, they get 1 energy back out of it. This is just really big combo stuff here. That was another aspect of this format that was pretty cool. You could play some of the more combo-y stuff you could ever do in Limited. Because there was a lot of just fancy combo-y cards in the set. And here we are getting comboed out pretty heavily. We do have Harness Lightning to finally kill Whirler Virtuoso now, but the problem is they've improvised another very cheap artifact creature out. This one being a 7/5, so we need to have a way to kill a 5 toughness attacker here. I think I like Harness Lightning. If we just Self-Assembler here, we can double block with a 4/4 and a 1/1 onto the Barricade Breaker. I really like killing that Virtuoso just as quickly as possible. But if I kill that, then I only have 2 mana left, so I play an Aviary Mechanic, pick up like an Artisan or something, and I'm just not blocking the Breaker well. Unless I don't return a card when I play Mechanic, in which case I block with a 2/2, a 1/1, and a 2/2. I 3-for-1 myself to kill the Breaker. I feel like I just don't have any other great follow-up plays if I choose to kill Whirler Virtuoso here. So I'll play Self-Assembler. We're just going to have to take a bunch of damage in the sky. But now we can double block a Barricade Breaker with a 4-4 and a 1-1. It's possible we're supposed to double block with a 4-4 and a 2-2 as well, because our 1-1 servo, at the very least, we can turn it into like a removal spell with Quicksmith Rebel and start shooting the Thopters away. I think we block like this because they're just not going to really attack it on the ground anyway. So we don't need a 1-1. We don't need a 2-2 blocker instead of a 1-1 blocker, but we do need an artifact creature instead of a non-artifact creature. So we take 4 here, go to 11. We've got one more card in hand. If it's just a land, they could even just start using Decoction Module with Whirler Virtuoso. Actually, with Thriving Turtle, it's even better, because Thriving Turtle only costs the 1 mana to play. Oh yeah, this is a big deal. So now is when we try to start coming back and clearing things out. This land was an incredibly important draw, fantastic draw for us, because now we have the mana to use Quicksmith Rebel to clear out one of these Thopters and kill Whirler Virtuoso all in one turn. They only have 1 mana up here, so we should theoretically be able to just shoot Whirler Virtuoso dead. Clear that off the board. They do get another Thopter, so we're taking a bunch of damage here. Probably just going to die. We probably take too much damage too quickly here, but we're going to do everything. We're going to do everything we can to stabilize here. So we're shooting one of these Thopters per turns. They can keep Decoction Modulating the turtle to have a bunch of energy backup for later. They could attack with the turtle here, then it's like a 1-4 and I block with Quicksmith Rebel, and eventually it becomes big enough to attack in well. But I feel like they're just going to keep getting energy out of the turtle if they don't draw anything here. Interesting choice from our opponent. I don't think there's any reason for them not to just sit there getting more energy if they can. We could Aviary Mechanic on a later turn to get 2 pings out of the Quicksmith Rebel, but I don't think we can do that right now, because right now we would shoot 1 for 1, and then we'd play a Self-Assembler, and oh yeah, we have nowhere near enough mana to get a double ping out of Rebel. But that could be a play on a future turn, and that's going to cost a lot of mana, so I think I play Self-Assembler here. It's going to cost 2 mana to Aviary Mechanic and 4 mana to play Quicksmith Rebel. So we actually don't need the 7th mana. We can hold on to it. Okay, so our plan here, I guess we attack with Quicksmith Rebel. If they have a combat trick, we're pretty sorely dead no matter what. So we might as well get the damage in here because our 4-4 blocks the turtle well. Oh, they can just return it to hand now. I see, that's why they didn't do it earlier. Fair enough. Okay, so our plan here is we shoot 1 flyer, we take 3 damage, but next turn we have a great combo with Aviary Mechanic to be able to shoot 2 of the flyers and slow down the bleeding as much as possible. We shoot 1 flyer now there's 3 of them, we go down to 4 life. But next turn, shoot 1 of them with the servo, pick up our Quicksmith Rebel, throw the ability onto Self-Assembler and shoot another one. I guess the question is that worth it? Because then our 4-4 is locked down to where we have to just use the 4-4 to shoot things if we want to shoot more things in the future instead of using the servo. It might be worth it to still take 2 more damage, but the problem is we'll die to a Furious Reprisal or Chandra's Pyrohelix. I think it's worth playing around Furious Reprisal or Chandra's Pyrohelix to go ahead and just kill 2 Thopters right now. It's going to take us longer to start attacking in, because now we're going to have to start using our Self-Assembler to ping things in the future. But in the immediate future, this lowers the amount of top decks that kill us, like, dramatically. because Chandra's Pyrohelix and Furious Reprisal are both cards I would expect to see in pretty much any red deck that could pick them up during the draft. And either of those cards would kill us on the spot if we don't kill 2 Thopters right now. There's also like Built to Smash to do +2/+2 to an attacker. That's another top deck that would immediately kill us. So there's the Thriving Turtle. That can block one of our creatures each turn. We take one more, go to 3 life. So we're in a top deck war, and hopefully we can draw better. Eddy Trailhawk is a good start. We're definitely just killing this Thopter. Even though we have an Eddy Trailhawk, I don't want to get like killed by a removal spell here. So I think we attack all, play an Eddy Trailhawk. It'll block the Thriving Turtle perfectly fine. The turtle will attack as a 1/4 if they spend the energy to put a counter on it. So we hit for 3 here, play an Eddy Trailhawk. We get to start sending in with the Self-Assembler next turn. We could have sent in with it this turn, but then we don't have that defense against a removal spell. It's possible in blue they could have like a bounce spell and get more damage in that way by bouncing the Eddy Trailhawk. Let's see what they have. Era of Innovation. They can draw a bunch of cards because they have so much energy. So draw 3. Brutal draw from our opponent here. The draw 3 can really get them out of this. We'll see what they've drawn into, though. One of them's a land at least. So that's a start for us to have a chance here. Anything that's just like a 2 toughness or less creature we can deal with. The problem is if they've drawn into like another Whirler Virtuoso. Ooh, Pia Nalar. That's brutal, because Pia, they can cast her and then pick her up with Decoction Module at instant speed, so we can't kill her because of Decoction Module. Unless we draw another removal spell, and that's just not another removal spell, so we're just dead to Pia. Ooh, opponent has a really good deck here. Yeah, if we try to shoot Pia Nalar, they just toss her back into their hand. So there's nothing we can do here. This Thopter is going to kill us because of Pia. Because if I don't do anything here, they pick up Pia Nalar so they can recast her next turn. I guess we can trade the Thopter with our Eddy Trailhawk, so we're not dead immediately. But yeah, this stops like all of our aggression, really. Because we can't attack with a 3/2. Because now they can give their Thopter +1 to kill Quicksmith Rebel, and then we're just out of it. But if they spend the 2 mana on that, then we know we get to kill Pia, I guess. We're probably killing this Thopter regardless. I guess we could attack with Quicksmith Rebel. If they try to do the Thopter thing, we kill the Thopter. That's interesting. Yeah, but like the 1/1 and the 1/2 just don't do much here because we need Eddy Trailhawk on blocks for like a worst case scenario. Attacking in doesn't do much here because they're going to pick up one of the creatures, so they just block. They block Aviary Mechanic with Thriving Turtle, they block Quicksmith Rebel with Pia and return Pia. Attacking in actually just accomplishes nothing. We have to just pass turn to them, and then we shoot the one Thopter that's going to attack us here, but they can pick up Pia Nalar. Oh, if they try to pick up Pia Nalar, we can actually shoot Pia in response. Oh, if they tap out Decoction Module here, we actually get to kill Pia. Alright, this is just a really intense board state. Neither of us are having a fun time. Because we have to play around each other. Like, if I attempt to shoot Pia, they pick it up. If they attempt to pick a card up, we shoot Pia. So they're kind of locked in terms of their Decoction Module now. They can't pick anything up. Or else we kill Pia Nalar. Pia Nalar is just too valuable for them. It's not looking good for us, though, because our opponent definitely has the better card draw through a long game. Implement of Examination here is going to draw them 2 cards when they sacrifice it. So I don't think that we're in the better position here. But it is an interesting one. Really complex stuff going on here. And that can definitely happen in Kaladesh as well. See what they're going to do here. They've drawn 2 more cards. Chandra's Revolution. That basically just closes it out. They don't have the mana for Decoction Module now, though. They only have 3 mana up. Yeah, let's blow up PNLR before they get some... In case they haven't played their land for turn, we'll just blow up Pia right now. That way, if they... If they have a land and they play it afterwards, then it doesn't matter because it's already dead. Plus, this is the last opportunity we have to use that 2 damage ability. I'm actually surprised they didn't go ahead and like sacrifice module to make Eddy Trail Hawk not able to block this turn. Try to sneak in some damage that way. But I suppose if they did that, they wouldn't have Decoction Module, and Decoction Module has been really good for them. Okay, so now all we can really hope to do is block with Eddy Trail Hawk, and if I block the servo with Eddy Trail Hawk, Aether Torch Renegade finishes it off. Oh wait, no, Aether Torch Renegade just kills me. They have 12 energy, so they can spend the 8 required to do 6 damage to a player. No removal for the Aether Torch Renegade here. That is going to close the game out. Really impressive blue-red energy and artifact combo deck from our opponent here. And that will be the first loss. Maybe they will block with an Aether Torch Renegade or just forget about its 6 mana ability here. It's an incredibly off chance, but it's our only chance, so we'll send in and see what happens. But I'm assuming that Aether Torch Renegade is getting tapped to deal damage to our face, and there it is. To -3 we go. Intense game there. But that will push us into 3-1. Our first loss of the night. Poor Choo Choo. Thomas had never seen such garbage before. Just for the meme. That was actually really cool. That was really cool stuff to see from our opponent. But I also think the meme is funny, so... I guess our Untethered Express didn't see any of that, technically. So, Thomas is just having a good time chilling. Ooh, number 48 Mythic. We are going to be against some fierce competition this round, heading into round 5 here. But we've got a pretty great start. Chandra's Pyrohelix, Furious Reprisal, and Aether Torch Renegade. A bunch of very reactive cards. If our opponent's playing an aggressive deck with a lot of cheap creatures with low toughness, we certainly have some responses to what they could have here. And a Scrap Heap Scrounger to start it off. I don't really want to Pyrohelix that, because they can bring it back from the grave by exiling another creature. That being said, I may have to, because it's not like I can block it well anytime soon, and it's dealing 3 damage to me every turn. I'm really not going to block it well until turn 4. I probably should Pyrohelix it. The problem is I have a bunch of other removal in this hand, so I'm likely to keep clearing out any creature they play, in which case the Scrounger is just going to come back. I suppose I'll have to just take some early damage here. We can clear out every other creature that they play, and then Visionary Augmenter can go ahead and trade into the Scrounger and leave some servos behind. Of course, Self-Assembler coming up now will be able to block Scrap Heap Scrounger without dying as a 4-4 against a 3-2. So Self-Assembler is now our late game plan to block that. And we are tapping out for an Aether Torch Renegade here, so if our opponent has any flash or haste, they could get us pretty badly. Essence Extraction's not that big of a deal. The Aether Torch Renegade wasn't going to do much on the current board state. Decoction Module coming out from our opponent. We've seen the power of that card in the past, but in a black-white deck, I would expect a lot more enter the battlefield effects than energy to combo with it, so they probably have cards like Visionary Augmenter to go ahead and return to their hand and play again to just get the maximum amount of Fabricate value that way. So it is looking like our opponent does not have any other early game creatures, nothing till at least turn 5 here, so it probably would have been best to just Pyrohelix that Scrap Heap Scrounger immediately, because they have not played another creature until turn 5 here. I could trade my Augmenter and a Servo to kill the Scrounger, or I could just chump block with a Servo. If I chump block with a Servo, I'm going to have my Augmenter trade with the Scrounger on a later turn anyway. So I feel like I should probably just 2-for-1 myself here, block with a 2-1 and a 1-1, but then if I kill the Dawnfeather Eagle, the Scrounger just comes back. Let's just take all 4 here, and then play a Self-Assembler that blocks the Scrounger all day long. And the reason that I'm playing Self-Assembler over a removal spell here is because I can stack these 2 removal spells together to clear out the whole board if I need to next turn. Furious Reprisal for 2 to Scrounger, 2 to Eagle, and then Pyrohelix for 1 to Eagle, 1 to Face, or something like that. So definitely one of those things, in hindsight, should have just killed the Scrounger immediately, but we can just kill it now. Trade for an Augmenter is a pretty good trade for us. Alternatively, we could see what combat trick they have here and just block with Self-Assembler. Is that better? It's probably better. More than likely, they 2-for-1 themselves here. There could be some combat tricks that'll have the Scrounger win this fight, but I think most of them would just be a trade. Scrounger plus a combat trick for Self-Assembler. We can take 3 in the sky here. I guess they can Decoction Module to throw Scrounger back in hand, but it's kind of whatever. There's a Sky Skiff. And a Vengeful Rebel, so they're going for Revolt there to finish off the Self-Assembler. Fair enough. So now we can Furious Reprisal plus Pyrohelix to clear their board. We do still have to worry about a Scrap Heap Scrounger coming in now, but this way we can clear the board before they can do ridiculous Vengeful Rebel combos. If we leave this Vengeful Rebel on board with a Decoction Module, they can spend 4 to return Rebel to hand and 3 to play it and get the Revolt trigger every time because Vengeful Rebel will have left the battlefield. So it's incredibly important to just deal with that nonsense right now. So we can do the Reprisal there and then attack all. It's possible that they activate a Sky Skiff here and try to block Augmenter, in which case we get a great deal on our Pyrohelix. Oh wait, what am I talking about? Dawnfeather Eagle's tapped, so they can't activate Sky Skiff even if they want to. But if they had activated the Sky Skiff with the Vengeful Rebel, we could have maybe Pyrohelix to kill a Sky Skiff as well. But we'll definitely Pyrohelix to kill the Eagle there. So we don't have any flyers, so we have no way to block the Sky Skiff. So if they return a Scrap Heap Scrounger to the battlefield here, they can immediately crew a Sky Skiff, but Restoration Gearsmith is a big deal here. It's going to pick up their Dawnfeather Eagle and give them an energy to Decoction Module and crew a Sky Skiff, slam us for 2 here. Things are not looking great for our heroes. We've got Restoration Specialist, but nothing to restore. I guess we do have a Self-Assembler, a nice big old 4/4. Pretty good, and we have 7 mana this turn, so we can cast Self-Assembler and Specialist. We're going to have all the blockers that we can use on the ground, so send in there, cast the Self-Assembler, cast the Specialist. My other Self-Assembler's engraved, so no reason to grab a non-existent 3rd copy. But it is looking like the Mythic Gamer here is going to rise in the ranks yet again. Just the evasive cards are going to clear us out. Sky Skiff and the Eagle here. They go for a Decoction Module over the Dawnfeather Eagle for turn. Ooh, because Master Trinketer comes out, buffing all of their Servos and Thopters and giving them the ability to create Servos for 4. Alright, Sky Skiff slams in for 2. No way to block that. And we'll see what we draw here. We do have our own Sky Skiff. Our Sky Skiff can block their Sky Skiff, but if they crew Sky Skiff and then cast Dawnfeather Eagle, which is definitely the play that they'll make here, then all we can do is chump block, because the Sky Skiff will be attacking as a 3/4 flying vigilance, and we're at 3 life, so we have no choice but to chump block. So, I mean, we play the Sky Skiff. It's the only play that can potentially survive next turn. They have a 3-3 and a 2-2 here, so they can double block Self-Assembler with those two. They have a good double block even, so we don't even attack in well. Like, if we attack all, they can either double block and kill Self-Assembler at the cost of a single 3-3, or they can just eat our Augmenter, eat a 1-1, and just take 5. They have great blocks too. All in all, a very bad position for us, and an incredibly impressive deck from our opponent here to close things out. Again, not lethal yet. We are blocking their Sky Skiff, but we are chump blocking their Sky Skiff. So, all things considered, very unlikely to come back from this one. They also have Master Trinketer. Once they run out of things to do, they can just start plopping out a bunch of servos. Alright. Weapon Craft Enthusiast, I suppose. I do think it's a little strange how our opponent's playing here, just wanting to go as wide as possible, because I have no cards in hand, so I feel like they can just put the pressure on, just go for that Sky Skiff attack with Dawnfeather Eagle. I feel like that would all in all be the better play. They might just be showboating a little bit here. But yeah, if they go for the if they crew Sky Skiff, cast Dawnfeather Eagle here, I have to chump block with my 1 flyer, and then they have a 3-3 flyer next turn that just kills me alone. So I feel like that would be that would just be guaranteed lethal next turn. Whereas here I might be able to survive one more turn. I suppose 4, 5, 6. They have 6 attackers. I only have 5 blockers. I guess they only have 5 attackers because the 0-1 doesn't attack. But I am still very dead regardless. Opponent probably does just want to show off all of the very powerful stuff going on in their deck. Oh, they do have Scrap Heap Scrounger as well. That does make it 6 attackers to only 5 blockers, making it guaranteed lethal if they cast Dawnfeather Eagle now. Unless I have removal in hand. Do I have removal in hand, opponent? That is the question. I feel like even if I do, Dawnfeather Eagle's just massive here. Alright. There it is. We have 5 blockers. They have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Well, they have six attackers that all deal lethal to me, and 1 that does 1. Excuse me. But the fact that they have 6 attackers that can do lethal and I can only block 5 of them is game right there, so we'll just go no blocks here to close this one out. Very powerful deck from our opponent. Looks like a really fun kind of black-white tokens deck. They have synergies between powerful enter the battlefield effects with Decoction module, enter the battlefield effects like Fabricate on Weaponcraft Enthusiast, the Restoration Gearsmith, being able to bring things back from grave, and the Dawnfeather Eagle going wide with the field. So that kind of stuff to go with the Decoction module. And then just a lot of servo production with the Servo Tribal Rare there to buff all the servos. And of course the Dawnfeather Eagle working really well if you go wide. And here we are, another Mythic gamer. We've got a pretty fantastic hand, all things considered. We do need to draw some lands, but we have the 1-2 punch of Gearshift Ace into Untethered Express coming up in this hand. We have a Harness Lightning for early game removal, so we've got a bit of interaction there. And we've got the late game. Of course, we have Untethered Express, we have Self-Assembler. A lot of good stuff in the late game if we can make it there. Problem is, we do need to draw the lands to make it there, but our opponent might be having similar issues. We see double black from them to start, so they could be cut off of their second color. It looks like that might be the case with triple black here by turn 3, but a Weaponcraft Enthusiast is a powerful way to start any game, get a couple 1-1s onto the board. We can cast a Sky Skiff here so that we can have a flyer. We can just play a really good blocker, the Reckless Fireweaver. A 2-1 First Strike is going to clear their board if they block, no matter how they block, so we just get in 2 damage here. We could only block 1 damage by blocking with the Gear Shift Ace, so we might as well deal 2 damage and then take 1 damage. Seems like a good deal, all things considered. There's a Renegade map, very good draw for our opponent. That guarantees them their second color. And 4th Bridge Prowler going to be really good against our Gear Shift Ace. Just clear that off the board and leave them with a 1-1 left behind. Alright, so now we have Sky Skiff we could play here, or we can hold on to Harness Lightning. Everything they have on board right now is just a 1-1, so I think I'd rather just play a Sky Skiff. So I'm able to crew that and block with a Flyer if need be. Really just on the hunt, on the lookout for lands here. There is the red source for our opponent from the Renegade map. I suppose a Renegade map would be a super solid draw as well, basically just a land. And Vengeful Rebel, one of the other powerful things to do with Renegade map is it does trigger Revolt because one of your cards will have left the battlefield that turn. So the combo between the map and the Vengeful Rebel going to go ahead and make that Vengeful Rebel come in and deal -3/-3 to something. We will of course respond by crewing our Sky Skiff so that we have a blocker there. I do like Aether Torch Renegade on this board. They have a lot of 1 toughness stuff. I also like Glint Sleeve Artisan because then we get a 2/2 out to block their Vengeful Rebel. Yeah, I like both of these cards a whole lot here. Glint Sleeve Artisan is going to be better if they have another targeted removal spell, and it more guaranteed stops damage next turn. If we play Aether Torch Renegade instead, Vengeful Rebel is going to hit us, because I don't think we'll want to trade Sky Skiff into Rebel, although we could. Yeah, I don't know. Both of these are fantastic plays, the Artisan or the Renegade. So I suppose Artisan lends itself a lot better towards drawing into the 4th mana for the Untethered Express. Because this is a game where whenever we have a 4th mana, we're going to have 2 vehicles on the board. So we want to have a lot of creatures on the board to be able to crew multiple vehicles each turn. So I like doing that. The idea of having an Aether Torch Renegade out and then drawing a 4th land next turn is a pretty big bummer. Then we just slam down a Scrapper Champion, I suppose. We play this game a lot differently, whichever card we play. By playing Glint Sleeve Artisan, we guarantee that we're going to have multiple creatures out to be able to crew multiple vehicles, more likely. Here I am going to try to just trade the 2/2 for the 3/2 here. And it does work out. I'm pretty happy with that unless they return that from their grave to hand. Bomat Bazaar Barge, that is an impressive card here. One of the best vehicles because it does draw that card when it comes into play, as well as being potentially a 5/5 attacker at a crew cost of 3, and they have the 3 power they need. So that is pretty scary, and it's probably going to start slapping us. We do hit the 4th mana. This is a bit awkward here, because if we play an Untethered Express, if we don't attack with it, it's only a 4/4, so it's not going to block the Bazaar Barge well. Do I just play an Aether Torch Renegade here and we stay defensive? If I play an Aether Torch Renegade, I can attempt to start shredding the 1/1s to keep them from crewing the Bomat Bazaar Barge. The other plus side of it is that it gives me 4 energy, which makes it so Harness Lightning will deal enough damage to kill something big as well. I think I do play Aether Torch Renegade here. I don't think we're in a position to try to be the aggressor, so we'll make our defensive plays here for now. Opponent does have 6 mana now after that card draw off the Bazaar Barge, so any large cards, they definitely have the mana to cast now. So here's where we potentially start seeing some haymaker plays. No crew of the Bazaar Barge is interesting to me. But I don't know what they have going. They might be wanting to play real defensively here. They might have stuff where they feel they have the late game unlock as well. So, I mean, now we can use Aether Torch Renegade to shoot one of their 1/1s. I think, again, I'm still not really in a position where I want to get the Untethered Express out, because it's only good on the aggressive. I'd I don't feel I'm quite there yet. I kind of want to play a Visionary Augmenter and just go really wide and really have the creatures ready to then start going off with the Untethered Express. I suppose I do want to play the Untethered Express the turn before I want to attack with it. So I could play the Express now and then the Augmenter next turn, potentially. I wonder what they're holding on to the 6 mana for. At instant speed. Could be more removal and stuff, but if they have removal, they would have killed Renegade during their turn. I also like having Harness Lightning available, but that's probably not going to happen. I have 3 powerful 4-drop cards, so I highly doubt I play a 2-mana card here. And I am roping a bit here, but I'm really trying to figure out what the best line of action is because we have so many powerful options. Time is an illusion. Don't worry about the rope. You'll get used to it. I'm going to cast a Visionary Augmenter here. I think I would like to go wide. Again, I'm playing really defensive. I'm being a bit of a coward here, but I think all in all, in general, should be pretty good. And, you know, now I'm pretty safe to just go ahead and send in the sky here. Might as well. I've got plenty to block with. And they're just doing nothing. There's no... I guess it is holding on them a little bit. But they're not killing anything here. We're just passing turn. Yeah, nothing instant speed there. I wonder, maybe they're just flooded out a bit here. Would have expected an attack from them last turn if that were the case. So there is a Die Young to go ahead and kill our Aether Torch Renegade. I think I'd rather kill a Servo than a 4th Bridge Prowler, because there are cards that can bring back a couple cards from their graveyard. So I'd rather kill the one that doesn't go to their graveyard, I think. There are also some artifact tribal cards that give them a little bit of value by having the card be an artifact instead of anything else. So we'll go ahead and shoot that 1/1 here. Maybe they'll spend a combat trick to save it, but I think that would be a good deal if we get rid of a combat trick for them to save a 1/1 over anything else. Subtle Strike. Ooh, put a +1/+1 counter on it, so it's definitely better than a combat trick. That's actually not a fantastic deal for us, because it's basically a removal spell, and they save their Servo there. So that's a pretty fantastic deal for them, all things considered, I would say. Now I would really expect the crew of the Bazaar Barge. I do think it was a little bizarre not to see it last turn. Especially if they had like Subtle Strike and stuff in hand there. But I'm sure our opponent thinks that a lot that I've been doing has been bizarre as well. I think we're both playing quite cautiously in fear of what our opponents are capable of. So 5 mana now, we can just slam down a Self-Assembler. I like the idea of that. Trade a 4/4 and a 1/1 into their 5/5. If they have another Subtle Strike, that'll be brutally bad for me. But I can win this game. If this game goes long here, I definitely have the card advantage win, because they only have 2 cards left here, and our boards are not... Like, our boards are going to be at parity. As soon as I play a Self-Assembler, I'd say both of our boards are, like, equally good. So, I think I win the long game by just having more powerful cards to play over the course of this game, whereas they only have 2 more cards to play. So I think we just do everything we can to play to the long game. So again, not playing the Untethered Express here, because all it's really going to do is attack. We're never going to want to block with it. Instead, we'll play a Self-Assembler, set ourselves up to block well next turn, take a 2-for-1 trade into the Bomat Bazaar Barge. Of course, we are just losing a Servo and an actual card, so it's not quite a 2-for-1. It's a little bit of a better deal than that, but ooh, Underhanded Designs here, removal spell. If they control 2 or more artifacts, so they can go ahead and blow up our Self-Assembler, but they just pass turn here. Alright, I will take it. They could be wanting to use this to gain some life when artifacts enter their battlefield, or to wait until we have a better creature out to destroy with this. They can do that at instant speed, so they blow up our Self-Assembler at instant speed here. We have 5 mana, we'll have 6 mana after I play a land. I won't have enough mana to cast Self-Assembler and hold up Harness Lightning. Harness Lightning can do at least 5 damage, so we can kill a Bazaar Barge with Harness Lightning for 2 here. Do I play Untethered Express and Harness Lightning? I don't really want to play Scrapper Champion, because they have Underhanded Designs right now. I think I attack in and try to Harness Lightning Bazaar Barge. If they have a combat trick, that's going to blow up in my face pretty badly, so maybe I just hold off again. I suppose we could hold off here and just play Untethered Express, hold on to the Lightning. So let's crew the Sky Skiff. Maybe they'll use the removal in the Sky Skiff, who knows? They're down to 13. They got to stop the flying damage at some point. They've got no flyers of their own right now. Alright, still taking it for now. Let's play our Untethered Express. Worst case scenario, we can crew an Untethered Express and block with it, but really don't like putting our friend Thomas in harm's way. So yeah, now we're holding on to Harness Lightning, which gives us 3 energy on top of the 2 we have to deal 5 damage to something. So we have the answer to the 5/5 Bazaar Barge. They have the answer to the Untethered Express. They can do this at any time. 2 mana, destroy a creature. That being said, they can't destroy a vehicle until it's been crewed. So if we wait until they use this on something else, we can just keep Thomas around for now. Furious Reprisal to clear out 2 of our servos to get in for potentially a good attack here. I'm not going to crew Untethered Express in response because I don't want it to get blown up by the underhanded designs. And I'm not even sure they attack here. Yeah, they don't even attack here anyway, so there's really no reason to get the Untethered Express up as a blocker. We have Harness Lightning, but we don't want to use it till we can kill the Bazaar Barge. So we'll pass turn. Welding Sparks, another way to kill the Bazaar Barge. Great draw here. I don't really want to crew the Express again because they can just blow up. I guess I could... If I kill 2 of their artifacts before I activate the Express, I can start using the Express. So if I spend Harness Lightning and Welding Sparks on their servo tokens, they only have 1 artifact left, in which case Underhanded Designs can no longer destroy a creature. I don't think that's how we want to get through that, though. I think we want to just force them to use it on something weaker. So I kind of like just an attack with Self-Assembler here. And we can just Welding Sparks their Bazaar Barge. Because we're doing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. They're very unlikely to have a way to kill 2 of our artifacts at instant speed to save the Bazaar Barge here. I guess we could Harness Lightning and that's a guaranteed kill on it. We don't have to worry at all about them really getting us out of nowhere. Okay, so I think... You know, worst case scenario here, if Welding Sparks gets me got here, I can just also Harness Lightning. I can 2-for-1 myself to kill this. I don't want to, but we have 3 cards left. They've got basically 2, 1 in hand and 1 removal on board. And luckily they just don't have a response, so we do get to just get off the attack with the Self-Assembler there. And now their board is a couple 1/1s and a 2/2. Like, we're in a great position. Even if I never crew Untethered Express, I can just sit here attacking with a 4/4 now. So we're very safe. We also have a Harness Lightning backup if they play another powerful creature. I'm feeling quite good here. We have another Self-Assembler coming up as well. We have just drawn quite well this game. And there's a Night Market Lookout. Whenever it becomes tapped, drain us for a life. If they get a vehicle to crew out onto the board, that will be pretty nice. But otherwise... not doing a whole ton here. We do have 7 mana. Now I can cast Self-Assembler and still hold on to Harness Lightning. I like that a lot. So I think I'll go ahead and activate Sky Skiff here. We don't really need to block at all. We are very much putting a ton of pressure on our opponent. They're going to be at a much lower life total than us, and we'll have a removal spell and blocker backup. We'll have a 4/4 to block with and a removal spell to shoot something with. So we attack with these 2. Now is the point where I could have Harness Lightning to servo to get the Untethered Express going on, but I think I'm firmly in the winning position without doing that, so just play it just mega safe here. Hold on to the Harness Lightning for something else because we know that we're going to get them to a point where they have to blow up the Sky Skiff to survive, and they choose to blow up the Sky Skiff right now. Which does mean that Untethered Express will start sending in next turn. So All in all, a really beautiful position here. I think this game, a lot of this game was thanks to the value of a lot of our 2-for-1s and our opponent just not drawing particularly well. They did draw a couple of just like 1-mana 1/1s. Although the 4th Bridge Prowler did a lot of work. It did kill one of our cards when they played it. But their board state has been left just too small to really deal with our big stuff. The self-assemblers being absolutely huge. These cards are so good. In any game I end up with, I'm just always happy to have a couple 4/4s on the board, as we've seen throughout this draft. So that is why I value those self-assemblers so highly. They look like such a basic card, but I have such a fantastic time with them every time. So Fortuitous Find here with 4 mana up, I don't think it's quite going to do it for our opponent, but it's really good. They can get a lot of 1/1s out if they play Weaponcraft Enthusiast, get a ton of blockers. Instead, they go for the Bazaar Barge. We can blow that up with Harness Lightning if need be. We still have fantastic attacks next turn because we just crew everything, get ready to attack. If they crew Bazaar Barge, we blow it up. If they don't, we're just killing a lot of their creatures. Yeah, we're still in a great position even after the essentially draw 3 they got off of Fortuitous Find. They picked up a Bazaar Barge and a Weaponcraft Enthusiast, and by casting Bazaar Barge, they picked up yet another card. It's a really good deal for our opponent. Ooh, Aviary Mechanic here to get another Enter the Battlefield effect. Not really good right now, but it's a fun card for sure. Would combo with Scrapper Champion if we want to get some extra energy, but it's way more likely we want to just attack with Scrapper Champion the second that it can. So here we are. The field is coming on in. There's the crew 3. Lookout is tapped, which gains them a life and deals 1 damage to us. The more important part is that it gains them a life. Now we can go ahead and Harness Lightning before blocks. Get that Bazaar Barge off the board. They only have 2 1/1s to chump block with. They can chump block our 2 4/4s, but then they take 5 damage. They cannot block the 5/5 Trample well because it has Trample, and all they have are 1/1s, so I expect just a double chump block here, go to 3 life, because if they don't double chump block, then they are dead. So yep, 3 life for our opponent. We're in a fantastic position all around. We'll go ahead and get a Scrapper Champion out as well. Going to be highly unlikely they can survive another turn of what we have going on this board. We have 2 4/4s, a 2/2 double striker, and a 6/6 trample attacking in next turn. And I suppose with the energy we just got, the Scrapper Champion will be a 3/3 double striker on attacks. So that'll be a win there, putting us to, I believe, 4-2. 4-2 here. We have made it to breaking even, 1,400 gems in 3 packs there. Technically not breaking even in terms of the amount of gems we get. It does cost 1,500 gems to play. But we're getting a ton of packs out of this, and this was the free draft. As I said earlier on, if you did not gather that, this is your first draft of this format is free. Thanks to Wizards, they're giving everybody 1 free draft of Kaladesh, and then 5 days from now, 1 free draft of Ikoria, as a bit of an apology for the delay in Jumpstart Horizons. So definitely, as I said before, if you are at all interested in this format, or even if you're not, just hop in and draft some cards you want for your collection. Really no reason not to. It's free real estate. So here we are in round 7 now, 4-2. Pretty great time overall. Whatever happens here, I'm always happy with a 4-3 or better. Seems like a nice return to the format. We've got to witness a lot of the fun things that the format is capable of. You know, we're playing the red-white moderate vehicle theme here. Definitely not going as hard on vehicles as this color pair can go. But we are seeing a lot of what the other color pairs are capable of, which is definitely a great thing to do in your first draft of a format as you're just trying to learn all of the different archetypes and stuff. So we saw a really good white-black tokens deck, super great blue-red combo deck. We've seen green-black +1/+1 counters is another mechanic available in the format. There are some cards that will double the amount of counters you're putting on stuff, and Kujar Seed Sculptor there is one of the cards that just puts counters on things. The worst case scenario on this card is it's a 2-mana 2/3, so pretty impressive card there. Our opponent follows it up with a 2-mana 3/1. It comes into play tapped, but it has Menace as long as they control an artifact. Oof, and there's Pacification Array, the 1 mana Icy Manipulator. It does cost 2 mana to activate, which is a bit of a bummer, but it's still an incredibly powerful card and an incredibly high pick, kind of the defensive version of Untethered Express, where it is very powerful, fits into any defensive deck, and always a good pick one, pack one if you don't have some kind of super powerful rare. So I could Furious Reprisal here to kill the Emerald Bruiser and do 2 damage to them, but I'm only killing one of their cards, and I'm quite a greedy player. I'd like to get a 2-for-1 off. So I'm just going to cast a Scrapper Champion here, get in for a couple damage. We'll just accept all the damage they want to deal to us in the early game here. It is unfortunate to have drawn both of our Self-Assemblers. That is the biggest bummer. As a massive fan of Self-Assembler, I am definitely not a fan of drawing all of my Self-Assemblers without getting to search for them. It's always so sad because it's so fun to search for Self-Assemblers. So we now have the 5 mana to drop a Self-Assembler here. I suppose if I do so, they can just tap it down and stay aggressive here. Yeah, down to 13 life, facing off against a Pacification Array. If I spend all my mana on a 4-4 here, they can just tap down the 4-4 and still get in. They also don't even need to tap it down to get in for at least 3 damage, but then I'm only going down to 10, which isn't so bad. I could play Glint Sleeve Artisan and Fabricate here to go wide so that I have blocks for the Menace creature, or so that their Pacification Array doesn't shut off my blocks so well. Still don't love Furious Reprisaling 1-for-1, but this might be the point where I'm supposed to. Oh, there's such joyful music on the Kaladesh board here as well. I think I'm just gonna go wide with Glint Sleeve Artisan. Unsure if this is correct, but I feel like just slamming down Self-Assembler can go so poorly for us. Like, where it's on such the back foot here that just getting out multiple blockers feels like our best option here. Because it, honestly, to me, I think it's between that and the Furious Reprisal, and unfortunately the green Furious Reprisal from our opponent dealing X, where X is the greatest power to our stuff, so 3 damage divided as they choose there. We can't block Emerald Bruiser because of the Menace, as much as I would love that trade there. So all we can do is Chump Blocker take 5, so I think we take 5 here. Opponent just had the great 2-for-1 removal spell there. That is just going to work out. So now we have a Harness Lightning with 2 energy already, so we'll have 5 energy total. If I get 1 more mana, then I can cast Harness Lightning and Furious Reprisal in 1 turn. Do I slam down Self-Assembler now? If they tap it down, I take 5 or Chump Block Seed Sculptor. But as soon as I hit 6 mana, I can clear everything they have on board now. I can't deal with the Seed Sculptor if I'm tapping out for Reprisal, so I'm taking at least 2. I'm going to slam down a Self-Assembler. Oops, oops, oops. If our opponent has more removal or more aggressive creatures, then it's possible we lose by not just slamming down Reprisal. If I'm going to lose a game just due to being way too greedy, that's as good a way to lose a game as ever. I'm all about doing everything I can to get the 2-for-1s. Gaunty, Lord of Luxury. Alright, well, we're going to get slammed by Gaunty. That is a crisp 2-for-1 no matter what. They get their 2/3 Death Toucher out, and they get the best card out of our top 4. Gaunty, a very popular card on Arena. I am sure most players will have seen it before. It is in pretty much every Arena cube because it is just that powerful. Incredible, incredible card there. And luckily, if they're just going to slam down for a Gaunty, Self-Assembler actually just stops all the damage that turn. No attacks from our opponent, and now they have Ovaya Pashiri, a powerful rare that can keep spitting out an XX, like a massive creature each turn. So now, by holding off on the Furious Reprisal so long, we get the crisp, clean, massive 2-for-1 here. Clear out that Menace creature, clear out that rare that's going to start creating massive attackers. And now I feel not super safe, because they can still just tap down Self-Assembler with Pacification Array. Pacification Array doing a ton of work here, but feeling okay. Oh no, and they drew into the Quicksmith Rebel off of Gaunty, one of our best cards in the deck. our one rare, and now the Pacification Array gets even better. Not only can it tap down a creature every turn, it can shoot things for 2 damage apiece. I suppose I could harness Lightning Gaunty, but I probably want to harness Lightning the Quicksmith Rebel here, and then they're down to just... They're down to just a 2/3 on board. We're taking 2 damage every turn, and I need 2 blockers before I can actually block because of Pacification Array. But I feel like this is the right thing to do. I can't just let Pacification Array stay with the ability to deal 2 damage to us. I think I have to harness Lightning the Rebel immediately. Because otherwise, even if we somehow find ways to block everything, we're on a 4-turn clock. Pacification Array can just do 2 damage to us every single turn. So we have to like 3-for-1 ourselves there. We have to spend our own removal spell against our own creature that they drew off of another one of their cards. Brutal game here. Opponent's deck definitely being super solid. Visionary Augmenter, such a good draw here. Gives us a ton of blockers, so even if they tap 1 down with Pacification Array, we can still at least chump block the Seed Sculptor. So I think I dig for the white source here and slam down an Augmenter. Problem is, because they have so much mana here, now they can Pacification Array to tap down 1 blocker right now, and then tap another during their turn. That way they still get in for 2, or I can only chump block. They can't do that every turn, they'd have to do it every other turn, because it requires tapping during my turn and their turn. So Augmenter still does slow them down a little bit here. Oh, wait. 2 1/1s are not big enough to stop a 2/3. Just being a 2-mana 2/3 has been a big bummer here. And now they're going to get the 3-mana 3/4, I believe. Greenbelt Rampager, pretty weird card. But essentially, triple green, you get a 3/4. Otherwise, you can just use it to get some energy when you need it. Just take that damage here. We get to play a Self-Assembler or an Untethered Express. I would rather play the blocker that does not require me to tap one of my blockers to activate, but things are looking pretty down for us. Our opponent has a very solid deck. Pacification Array, Gaunty, drawing our rare against us here. They've had some impressive plays here. Monstrous Onslaught was huge as well, getting a crisp, clean 2-for-1 off of their removal spell when they were on the early aggro. In the grand scheme of things, I think we would have gotten destroyed even harder had I not held on to Furious Reprisal as long as I did. It did cost me a lot of early game damage, but I think in the grand scheme of things, I got a lot closer to stabilizing than I would have otherwise. But this deck that our opponent is playing here has just mountains of late game value on top of the powerful early aggression. So we are definitely still just going to get slammed here. They, of course, did have the Wildest Dreams, returning 3 cards from grave to hand, so yet another powerful rare here. That one only a late game play, but it allows them to recast Gaunty and Ovea Pashiri and another removal spell, so we're just going to get absolutely demolished by all that stuff next turn anyway. I really don't think it matters at all what plays we make from this point on. I don't think there's any way out of this, so I guess we might as well send a message and kill what creatures we can on our opponent's board. But yeah, our opponent has just a absolute smashing turn next turn. So we cast Untethered Express. They have 7 mana up, so they just get to cast Gaunty and Ovea Pashiri and tap our attacker, so we might as well attack with Self-Assembler here. We're mega dead regardless. But yeah, they have the mana to just go 4 mana, Gaunty, 1 mana, Ovea, 2 mana, tap your creature with Pacification Array. Really, really solid stuff from our opponent here. Just green, black, powerful rares, really, going to close out this draft event for us. I guess we might get to see what card they've drawn this time. Welding Sparks to kill the Self-Assembler as well. Some pretty good draws out of the Gaunty for our opponent throughout this game. I think that we're dead on board here. We only have 2 blockers. Yeah, we're dead on board. We only have 2 blockers. We know they have a removal spell in hand and a tapper on board. So they remove one of our creatures. We then spend that creature to activate Express. Oh my gosh, they have Fatal Push as well. This is a absolutely fantastic deck from our opponent. Now we're incredibly dead, but even with the cards that we knew about, we were dead, because they could removal spell one of our creatures. We respond by using Untethered Express, but then they go ahead and Pacification Array the Untethered Express, and then because Untethered Express is tapped, we'd only have one blocker. One blocker against two powered creatures means we're dead regardless. They happen to have another removal spell, Fatal Push, so now not only do they have 2 blockers to the 1 attacker, they have 2 attackers to the 1 blocker. They have 2 attackers to the 0 blockers now, thanks to 2 removal spells plus Pacification Array, so very, very impressive stuff there. And that will lead us into 4-3. Had a good time all around, and it was a free draft where we got enough rewards to hop into a draft right after this, 1,400 gems in 3 packs. Very close to enough gems for another draft of Kaladesh, so I will be playing the format a bit more. Definitely going to do some more recordings tomorrow, so I don't know if I will have a video up tomorrow, because I will be recording later on, but I will definitely have some more Kaladesh Remastered Drafts coming up for you all in the next coming days if you're interested in that. And yeah, pretty fun time overall. Pretty solid deck here, taking us to a nice 4-3, slightly above average run here to get some good rewards out of this. So, as always at the end of the video, I'd like to thank you all very much for watching, especially those who have stuck around to the end of the video. If you're enjoying the draft videos and you want to see more of them, you can always like, comment, and subscribe. That'll let the YouTube algorithm know that you are interested in seeing more of the videos. So, as always, thank you all very much for watching. I'll see you again very soon for some more Magic Arena.